fancy for me. Guys, it's me. It's Moltenink. We're back. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing my friend and honestly the one of the coolest people that I've gotten to meet on Twitch as part of my Twitch career, Jonah Lobe. Jonah, welcome to the podcast. Our very first guest, and like no one better I could have had on. How are you doing?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, man. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh man, it has been too long. Okay. I guess
Time.
we should start out for those of us in the chat and also our listeners who don't know how we know each other. You know what? If they hear from me, it might be a lie. Jonah, how do we know each other?
You know, I believe actually you yourself are responsible for it, and I don't know if you even know that because I think that one day, so I had been approached by Adobe to possibly do some streaming for them on their Twitch network, and I got back to them, and then they never got back to me.
Oh,
But then I go onto the Twitch Adobe stream one day, and there's a streamer called Moltenink, and he's doing a monster called the Deathclaw. And
yeah.
I say, hey, wait, that's the Deathclaw. I made the Deathclaw for Fallout 3 and 4. And we start chatting, and obviously the person who was responsible was watching. And then, well, wouldn't you believe it? 30 minutes later, I got an email from them finally hitting me back saying, like, hey, sorry about the delay. Like, so essentially, I got this gig part-time working as a streamer for the Adobe Twitch channel along with yourself. And so you and I got to know each other through that. And then ultimately that evolved into the next level when you and I worked on what is it called? Build a Beast? Or
It was like Build a Beast. Yeah, it was like a creature. It was like a how-to kind of creature because we both definitely that was the thing I think we definitely bonded on immediately was I feel like we both were big about trying to teach people the skills that we had and give them the tools to be able to do this kind of thing for themselves, right? Like to be able to break into everybody because that's the thing. You get on Twitch and you're some kind of professional artist, man, everybody comes out the woodwork with dreams. They all got the dreams of being it, and you want to do it. You want to reach out and tell them like, this is how. It's not that hard. You just got to put the effort in. And I think that was something we bonded over, and we ended up doing this tutorial series, and that was what was crazy. I'd never done like a whole series with that, and it was wild. I think, and it ended up being like one of those things that was like just one of those huge memories I had of like my time streaming back in the day. It was a
yeah,
huge part of it. We both took it very seriously,
yeah.
which was like kind of a huge thing. And the whole time I was worried. I was like, oh man, Jonah's gonna come up with like with a whole syllabus, and I'm gonna have nothing. You wing it. And then the imposter syndrome was just like overwhelming. Oh, what
Well,
was your
it's all
experience
new
on
when
your end?
you're trying to teach these things. You know, it's very hard on the one hand to just do it yourself, and then on the other hand to try to teach it. You're trying to formalize the structure of what you're doing, and so I think it was really helpful for both of us just to kind of try to quantify and outline, you know, what exactly is our process, and then break it down. I think we broke it down to like six or maybe even eight sections or something.
I think it was something like that.
It was really
Yeah,
helpful. It
yeah.
was really helpful, and I think there was a big response to it. I remember speaking to Adobe, you know, for a while afterwards, and there was a lot of really good feelings about that Build a Beast course in particular. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I remember I remember that it's a little bit out of school, but I guess that's like this is kind of what the podcast is about. But like I remember hearing through the grapevine and stuff like that of like people who were involved that Adobe was really sort of like investigating Twitch with as like a research thing. They wanted to launch, and it ended up being Behance, right? And at the time, I was telling them, I was like, this is a bad idea. Your numbers are skewed, right? We are actively attracting people who are gamers. They're here to watch gaming streams, and they just happen to see something that's related to something that they love. There's fandom there. It's like this isn't about like I mean, it definitely was about the art and the artists. It became that like people would show up. I mean, okay, you must know this. Jonah Lobe is streaming, people show up for the Deathclaw maker, and then they stick around for Jonah Lobe, the comic artist, who's like actually doing stuff and like talking to people and stuff. Like I know you don't have time to stream as often as you used to, but like but it's a thing, right? Like it's
Oh yeah.
you build fandom, and on Behance, I kind of think that not a lot of the creators that we really should be known for what they did, like the big things that they did, people don't know them because
Yeah.
we're all online with like our handles. Like I'm Moltenink, right? Like
Right.
I wasn't smart enough to choose my actual name. I mean, there you go, right? But it's a little bit harder to find stuff if you're like an online personality that's like got this separation between you and the stuff you did.
Yeah, I think, and also I think Twitch creative, has really not been very supported there. And so when I go there, it feels like a graveyard these days. And I mean, I haven't gone in a long time. And when I tried to go recently, it was actually quite demoralizing. And I kind of thought, like, man, if I, as an artist who's pretty talented and who has a pretty good name out for himself and everything, can't get any viewers, then this is hard. This is hard for people. And so I think I do wish they had that Twitch invested more in that, but maybe there's just not
Yeah, me
enough
too.
interest or something. I'm not sure, but it's not easy. It's not as easy. Yeah.
Yeah, and like there's definitely something to be said for that. Like you are not the first person to have expressed that to me. That Twitch creative is not the same as it used to be. I mean, there's a reason behind that, and I would say that would be Monkey on Strike. Moss was a singular force of unification in Twitch creative. I don't know if you ever got to meet Moss. Did you ever meet him? He was the Twitch creative channel dude. Like he worked at Twitch, and he was the guy who was like in charge of creative. They hired him on for that.
I had forgotten that name entirely until you just said it, and now I'm thinking, oh yes, like I do know that name, but I can't for the life of me remember. But yeah, there was a period there where they were pushing for it, and then it just fell off. It just fell off. I think the numbers just didn't make sense for corporate.
No,
So
I mean, and that's fair, but that's the funny thing is, had they asked Molten Ink, he could have told them that would have been the case, right? Like it's no. This is the other thing too. Is like I would say, I mean, and this is one of those things that I think we'll talk. But you know what? Maybe we'll get into the deep stuff later because like we're diving right into this stuff. People need to know more about Jonah Lobe. Let's stay on task because we have plenty of time to talk about all the horrible things that art companies are doing to the artists to their clients and stuff afterwards. But let's talk about Jonah. All right. Now that you guys know how Jonah and I know each other, let's talk about him. Who is Jonah Lobe? Jonah, as far as I know, is a husband and father. He's like a teacher and all around wonderful human being in general. Jonah is a digital painter and he specializes in like concept art and like was it monster specifically? Or like you did some weapon work and vehicle stuff as well.
Well, when I worked in video games for the first 7 years, I wasn't actually doing 2D work. I was doing 3D
Yeah,
sculpting
yeah.
and that kind of thing. And so that's why I got my start in the industry. I was at Bethesda Softworks, Bethesda Game Studios, and I was a character artist. And I would spend my days modeling and sculpting and texturing monsters mostly, but other kinds of character art like armor and weapons and outfits and that kind of thing. And so for 7 years, I worked on those games like Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Skyrim, a little bit of Oblivion and Shivering Isles. And then only afterwards when I kind of left Bethesda and moved here to New York, did I start working on my more 2D abilities, concept art, and most recently illustration and now comics.
That's amazing. I mean, like, it's like I love that you've been able to do so much. Okay, but let me rewind it back. Okay, Bethesda, right? Like, this is one of those things. When I was younger, and I was like, I had no ability to get into there wasn't a program, and for me, like that was really good for me to do video games that was local, but there was an animation program, so that's why I went into that. I was like, I could do this. I could definitely do this, right? But I like my love is for video games. Honestly, I'm a huge gamer, right? Again, I love cartoons and stuff like that. It's a lot of damn work, but I mean, making video games is too. They're all a lot of work. You figure that out as you get in there. But like so getting into Bethesda, was that straight out of college for you?
Pretty much, pretty much. There was a period after I graduated college where I just couldn't get a job. I was applying everywhere, and I just couldn't. I just wasn't hearing back from anybody. So I ended up getting some good feedback from somebody. Basically, I went to a computer art convention, SIGGRAPH, and asked like, hey, like, why am I not getting any jobs, to the potential employers there? Here's my portfolio. What are you not seeing that you would need to see to hire me? And they basically
Yeah,
said
I mean,
specialty in a particular realm. You're obviously a talented artist, but you do drawings and some sketching and some creature design. You do a little bit of 3D, but you're not showing any.
what we would call 3D generalists now, right? Like that's become like a thing that people advertise themselves as, right?
Yes,
Yep.
yes, exactly. I was much more of a generalist, and so then I spent like 6 months, about 7 months, just I didn't get a job. I just stayed at my mom's house and just didn't spend any money, and just worked on my portfolio. And I would just worked on the creation of at the time 4 different 3D models. It was a cartoon alien with 4 arms, a Murdral, which is one of those eyeless monsters from the Wheel of Time series, with
Oh
its
man,
armor.
yeah.
And then I worked on a demon head, like a horned demon. And then I made a mechanical spider. So those are the 4 things I made. And then once I had all that in place, then I reapplied again to a couple places, most notably Bethesda. And this time I sent my portfolio directly into Todd Howard, who was not, as prominent back then as he is now. This would not work
Right,
today,
right.
obviously.
He wasn't Todd back then. He was Mr. Howard who works in the Bethesda,
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Nobody called him God Howard yet, but yeah,
Right.
that came
Oh
later.
man, yeah.
That came later.
Oh
So,
man.
so then, but and I was also lucky that basically Bethesda was 25 minutes from where I lived, and so
Oh
helped
man, just like
enormously.
so blessed. Hashtag blessed.
Still blessed, still blessed. And I had no idea, of course, I had played Morrowind, and that's how I got to know them. And I would have been excited about seeing Oblivion in magazines and all that, but I had no idea that they were about to explode in the way that they ended up exploding. So I was very, very blessed. Very blessed to be a part of that huge upswing. So yeah, that was my first job. Really lucky.
Yeah, what was that? What was that? That must have spoiled you for like you must have known though, right? You're like, man, my career. It's like I'm never gonna work. I'm never. That's why you got out, right? Tell the truth. And you were like, you know
Yeah.
what? There's no good. That's all downhill from here. I'm getting out while
Yeah,
I'm getting good.
that's literally it. That's literally it. I think
Oh
I
man.
think Skyrim is not the best game of all time, but it's one of the best games. And it's definitely the top 100, if
It's
not the top 50 or the top 10 or whatever.
I would
And
argue it's one of the best loved games for
I
sure.
I
For
think so.
sure.
I think so. And I think also more to the point, it was released at a very critical moment, and so it had a huge cultural impact, such that I realized that I could work on another game that would sell more, but it wouldn't have quite the impact. The odds that it had quite the cultural impact that Skyrim did at the time were very low. And so, yeah, actually, at that point, I kind of just felt like, you know what? It's time for me to do something new, because what am I going to do? Just spend the rest of my life trying to recapture that old feeling, and just try to keep making bangers. And, as I said, I'm from that area. And so there wasn't a huge pull to stay because I just lived there for so many years already. I just wasn't feeling challenged. And even
Fair.
though
Yeah.
the games we were working on were bigger and bigger and the art things that I was working on were bigger and bigger, I just wasn't feeling pushed
It didn't feel the
as an
same,
artist
right?
and as a
Yeah.
creative, as a human. I realized I could stay at this company forever and just be comfy forever and never grow.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that my wife, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, had moved up here to New York, and I had been wanting to write a fantasy novel, and so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna move up to New York, maybe for a year or whatever it takes, and then maybe we'll move back down. And I'll go back to Bethesda after I finish this fantasy novel, which was a written fantasy novel, and
Right,
that
right.
fantasy novel ended up taking me over 3 years, almost 4 years to finish. And
Yeah.
I got a book
Yeah.
agent and all that, but we couldn't find a home for it anywhere. And then that was the end of that. And then we ended up just living in New York. So I never went back.
Yeah.
And I have no regrets. I miss it. It was very nice. I missed a lot of the friends who were there, but a lot of them have also left since then. And
Yeah.
now that I've seen, the cavalcade of stumbling titles they've created in since then, it has not made me miss it. I'll tell you that.
I was thinking about that because I was looking over some of the games that that your name is tied to, right? And I was noticing like like, you can like see how novel it must have felt to work on, like, as somebody who's worked as a production artist, seeing the world that Fallout 3 was, and like I could tell there was like somebody there had a vision, and they really were like driving it, and everybody was on board for it, and they were like, like it's one of those things when you see a game that comes out that has its own unique sort of look, and it is so well fleshed out, it feels real, it's detailed, it's as detailed as like Fallout 3, Skyrim, and Fallout 4, like arguably all those three. You know that the people there, there's love for the studio, there's love for the job, like they're doing the best work that they've done in their career, and they know it, and it's driving them further to greater heights. But you definitely, after Fallout 4 and stuff, there was definitely a dip in the I don't know, I want to say quality, that's not fair, it's maybe just like the scope that people were doing. I don't know what it is, but there's something, the magic got lost somewhere along the line. Maybe people just got tired, burned out of doing the same old kind of thing over and over and over.
Yeah,
It's definitely.
I think it was a combination of those things. I think they succumbed to corporate pressure and went from Fallout 4 directly to Fallout 76. And it's fun to dive into a shattered world, a post-apocalyptic, wasteland. But to have to do that for not just like 2 or 3 years in a row, but like 5, 6 years in a row, it's actually not that. It's really not that fun. And you need things that are fresh and that are new. And so that I always thought that they had a really beautiful thing going, bouncing between the Elder Scrolls and Fallout, because they're so different in so many ways that it keeps you fresh and it keeps you wanting. You're in one and then you can't wait for the other, and then you get to the other and you can't wait for the other. But when they went from Fallout 4 to Fallout 76, that was a miscalculation. I thought they also lost Adam Adamowicz, who was the concept artist responsible for all of the concept art for Fallout 3. He died near the beginning of Fallout 4's development in the same year that I left.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, he died. Yeah,
he was the one, right? He was the one probably leading the charge on the art and the direction, and like the inspiration for all the other artists is like looking at that stuff and going, oh man, this is cool, I'm gonna take this idea, and in those kind of situations when you are working for somebody that is a great artist. I had a similar situation when one of my first jobs in animation. I met this dude Phil Postma. Man, Phil, his cartooning ability was off the charts. This guy used to freehand with an ink brush, like a brush pen, just in his giant sketchbook, and every page was a banger. Every single one. It's just like, wow. And like everything was totally different. He'd go from sci-fi to fantasy and all over the place. And you would like, when I got, having seen that, I made a lateral move. There's a long story behind it, into like the art side of things. I always wanted to draw more, right? Yeah, like so I get into builds because it allowed me to draw, and I was always going over to Phil to ask him to look at his new stuff and try to get show him some of my stuff. Nicest guy too. Was always happy to look at my stuff, give me pointers and things like that. I definitely owe a lot of like my design aesthetic and the way I approach things to to everyone I've met and asked for. But Phil was definitely influential, right? And Phil left. He had some health problems and stuff pretty early on in my career, and he was a young dude, and he left the studio and stuff. I think there was some politics involved as well. Well, I should investigate that, but he left the studio, and the studio was poorer for it, because I was definitely not the only one who was really jazzed about having like really awesome artists working at that studio, and like the less awesome artists that were there, the less jazzy I was about going in every day,
Yeah.
And I started to wonder, what do they know that I don't?
Yeah, no, this was a tragedy, losing Adam, for sure. He was a very creative force, and he just was full of imagination, and that was a big loss. I think also there was a stagnation of leadership. The art director for Morrowind was the same art director for Oblivion, which was the same art director for Shivering Isles, and it just kept going like that. And then the same art director for Fallout 3 was the same director for Fallout 4, was the same art director for Starfield. And I worked for both these guys. I liked them well enough, but there wasn't any new blood flowing in, and that was the problem.
You need new ideas.
I think also we just lost a bunch of people left. I think I ended up being, I would never claim that I was the cause of this at all, but I ended up leaving, and then a bunch of other people started to leave. And I think
It
that,
was you. You know what? I think they just thought like you. It was the time.
yeah, I think when I left, I think my friend Jang had told me that a lot of people were kind of shook by that because it kind of felt like, why are you going to leave now? We just released Skyrim. We're on Fallout 4. Like, why are you going to leave? But I think then the reasons caught up with people, that it was becoming a much more corporate structure, that, Todd was less and less involved and more with the high ups. And yeah, it's I went back there a couple of years ago. The place looked gorgeous. It looked so high quality. They had really built up the studio. It was full of people that I didn't know, all these new faces. And it just felt like it was changing so much that it didn't really belong to the old developers anymore, and so anyway, it's like a confluence of reasons, but I think that they suffered a massive brain drain of incredible talent. I made a documentary, if anybody who's interested in Skyrim or Bethesda in
Oh,
general. I made a documentary about the making of Skyrim called "You're Finally Awake," and it's in
I
fact, if you
was
just
not aware of this thing.
oh yeah, if you just Google Skyrim documentary, it should be the first thing that pops up actually.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I interviewed.
I definitely want to check that out.
You should definitely check it out. It's excellent. And I say that because I didn't edit it together. I paid somebody to edit who's a genius. I interviewed 9 other developers and none of them work at Bethesda anymore. So it just shows you there was a lot of people who understood and who pushed and who cared, and they were just not fed, in the ways they needed to be fed, and they left. So
Yeah, I think I had a very similar experience. People who don't know, like the animation industry, especially like the service animation industry, is very. They're like the video game industry and the animation industry. They're sister industries. They operate almost entirely the same way, and stuff. And the kind of people who work there are very similar as well. And I had the same feeling when because I went out on my own. That's where we met. I was doing some independent work, doing some board game art, and doing Twitch and everything. And then I eventually, for personal reasons and stuff, I had to go back to a studio job. And I was sad about it and everything. I was actually very depressed about it, to be perfectly honest. The first couple of years back at the studio, I was very depressed. I didn't talk to a lot of people, and it was mostly I would look around. So, yeah, the few of my friends were still there, but most of the people I didn't know. They're all these like young kids and stuff, and I was suddenly the old man at the studio, right? I was like, oh no, when did that happen, right? And then I started to being like, oh well, you know what? Maybe I should start moving up in the ranks and start applying myself and stuff. But that's a story for another day. But like that is. It's something that you're always going to experience. It is a very hard industry. Being an artist, being a creative, in a corporate environment is a very, very competitive thing. And whether or not it's in our heads or not, that's a we can discuss that, but I think no matter what, in your head, it's very competitive, and you push yourself. You push yourself hard, really, really, really hard to try to achieve those places, and you do sort of feel like the people coming out of college. There's like everyone that gets in this no, another shark in the tank, right? Like, and you're worried that maybe not really worried, but in the back of your mind, you're like someday. Somebody else is going to be occupying this role that I worked so hard to get to, right? And
yeah,
then you start wondering about what do you do with your career, where you're going to go from there and stuff. If you start hitting ceilings, right?
yeah.
And again, that's largely about like what this is about. Which we're gonna get into a little bit because I want to talk about your comic. But okay, what is this? All right. Are Deathclaws just dragons? Are they just dragons? Because like they've got the horns and the maw. They've got the big old legs and the claw. Like they're wingless dragons. Admit it here in front of the world that you just made a two-legged dragon, and then put it in the future. It's a futuristic two-legged dragon.
I will say they do. I remember someone in Fallout 1 or Fallout 2 describing them within the game. I mean, describing them as kind of the dragons of the wasteland, and that is the mythological niche they hold. But no, they're not dragons. But in terms of being the ultimate, rock
But they
paper scissors
occupy that
dragon,
role, right?
the whole idea is they're the alpha. Like
Yeah.
so in that regard, nothing. That's why I was so happy to be able to do dragons for Skyrim, because dragons are universal, and dragons always beat everything. You can sit here and be like, "Oh, well, what about Cthulhu?" Oh, shut up. Like that's just one tiny mythos. Dragons are universal. Dragons win. So
Okay,
in that
very
regard,
true.
Deathclaws are that I want. Even though there's monsters who are tougher than Deathclaw, I want the Deathclaw to be
They're
the
the
ultimate
king.
of that world. So yeah, but
still
no,
the
they
king.
they are Jackson's chameleons.
Yeah,
Actually.
yeah, we were watching. Yeah, the pre-interview stream, we were watching a video about some of the biology and stuff like that. And I was like, I was really fascinated by this because like there's a lot of fan videos out there
Oh yeah.
about some of like our favorite monsters and stuff. I'm a big fan of watching these things. Like you get like biologists and stuff who become YouTubers and they like do breakdowns of things. And what's great about this is like, and I can tell this is a thing for you because like we talked about this a lot when we were doing our creature course for Adobe. It was like we definitely both thought in depth about like, okay, so why is this creature's foot the way it is, right? Like why does it have a thick boy tail, right? Like as opposed like, why are these things? And I definitely see like and I think we've talked about this in the past, but it's fun to talk about again. Like with Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, they are drastically different, the two designs, right? But again, the two games were drastically different too, both in technology and like and in just what the aesthetic. The aesthetic evolved a little bit for sure. And I know there's an aspect of the Fallout 3 Deathclaws. They had to look a little bit like the previous games, like those tactical game ones. They had a look for their Deathclaws, and you couldn't vary too far from that. There would have been fan backlash about it, right?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the Deathclaw design first, and then I want to talk about your dragons because dragons are dragons, but are they wyverns? Oh, we're going to talk about that after. Okay, that's a whole thing. I used to argue about this with people all the time with Game of Thrones stuff, and it's one of my favorite things to pick people out for. Anyway, but okay, so Deathclaws, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the one for Fallout 3. Fallout 3, there were restrictions, right?
Yeah. So I had to conform to the expectations of the audience, people who played Fallout 1 and 2. And that meant looking at the original sprite designs, which were not all that impressive. And in fact, the more research I did, the more I realized that this was never what the Deathclaws were supposed to look like. The Deathclaws were supposed to look much, much closer to werewolves. But ultimately, due to technical limitations and then them not being able to kind of create hairy entities convincingly in this little sprite world, they ended up kind of as a late game addition. They talked to their friends at I believe it was Black Isle Studios, who were working on a certain game called Planescape Torment, and which some of our old school friends might be familiar with. And they had a monster called the Tarrasque.
Yes.
And
Oh my god, I was just going to mention this. The old school, it was I guess the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Tarrasque looks a lot like a Deathclaw.
well, so that's what they did is they had created a model of a Tarrasque for which they were going to take pictures of and use that as the sprites for Planescape, and instead Interplay purchased that model and they took pictures of that.
That's why it's different.
That's why
The
it looks the way it
look
does.
oh my god, I've wondered that for years. Oh man, because you know what? Okay, I'm gonna say it right now. The old Tarrasque is better. I don't care. Listen, I'm gonna say this right now. Wizards of the Coast, you done messed up. You messed up. That thing was so cool and was like clearly the specter of death in Dungeons and Dragons, and now it's a weird turtle.
Yeah, I do think they messed that up. And so but the Deathclaw that we know of in the Fallout universe benefited, right? Because then they became, instead of this, silly werewolf thing, which, would have been cool too, they became something else. And so I was looking at this model of the Tarrasque, and I was looking at the concept art by that guy Adam Adamowicz that I referenced, which was great. And I think one thing that stood out to me was he did it kind of skinnier, leaner, longer limbs, hungrier, with kind of like a loose hide, like a loose leathery hide, which I thought was really, really cool. And so that's how I kind of created the first one. And I tried to make it look eerie and frightening and gave it kind of a skull-like mask. They have a very creepy visage. And I kind of gave it like some vitiligo, like patches of white on its body and that kind of thing. I used pictures of rhinoceroses and elephants and all that to give it that wrinkled look. And so that's how the Fallout 3 version came to be.
Yeah, you
And
know
then
what I
when it
was
came to
saying
Fallout
earlier
4,
was they almost vibe a little bit like kobolds, like the smaller ones, right? And then the
right?
bigger ones. Again, I was on this dragon. I was on this dragon rant. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
but that changed a lot for then four,
that
right?
changed. So Fallout 4, by the time I was beginning work on Fallout 4, I knew I was going to leave. My plan had been
Oh,
I was going to leave, and so I was going to move up to New York. And so I asked the project manager. I said, can I, I'm doing other creatures like the super mutants and the mole rats and the blood bugs and Preston Garvey's outfit and all these different random things, but I really want to do the Deathclaw before I leave. And she said, "There's no plans for Deathclaw for Fallout 4." I was like, "What?" And she said,
what?
"Yeah."
Oh the hell! Oh man,
Yes.
Bethesda
And so she said, "Well,
already
I mean,
making
like
mistakes.
maybe it'll be added later, but right now it's nowhere on the list. We're not planning to include them in the game." And I thought, to hell with that.
Yeah,
And if I leave and somebody at the company makes this on their own,
you'd
I
be
will never
mad. I would
forgive
be
myself.
mad. Yeah.
So what I did to make the Fallout 4 Deathclaw is I made it at home, and I used the original sprites. I used the concept art from Fallout 3, but there was no concept art for Fallout 4. And so basically, I just used all of my combined 7 years of experience of making creature designs for video games and made my own creature and made my own Deathclaw. And I tried to keep it as accurate as possible to the original while still creating very much my own flavor. And so I made it thicker, heavier looking, much thicker hide. So instead of a thinner, looser hide, it has these kind of plates, bony plates all over it. I
Love
gave
it.
it
Like
like
alligator-esque, right?
yes,
Like that's how I
exactly.
always describe it, the hide of it, you know?
Yes,
The
it's very
tail.
thick. Because I wanted
The
it to look
tail.
like if you shoot this thing, you can believe that it's not getting hurt because you can imagine small caliber gunfire just bouncing right off. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and
When I
I
first saw that thing, this is okay. This is my part of the story where I was a fanboy when I met Jonah because I was a big fan of Fallout 3. I played it a lot. It was just the right time in my life. I sat at home and I played it a lot at home, in my basement, and it was so fun. I had a great time. I just got real immersed in it. It was fantastic. And then Fallout 4 comes out, and I'm like, yes, absolutely, yes. I was just like, I didn't even look into much about it, the trailers or anything like that. I was just like, I'm gonna play this game. I know I am. So I bought it sight unseen, and I start playing it, and right away they give it to you right away, right? It's like the best part of Fallout 4 is that you get to see a Deathclaw right away. And they give you the power armor, they give you the minigun, and you drop down, and this thing comes out the floor. It just comes out the street and comes barreling down on you, and you're like, I got this, no problem. No, you don't got this. The Deathclaw wrecks you. That's how everyone's first Fallout 4 experience goes, is you get your face kicked in by a Deathclaw, and it's magical. The thing is majestic and scary. It's got one part T-Rex from Jurassic Park. It's got this the way its tail moves looks like a gator. The claws on a thing are just like just a nightmare. And it's got like a demon face. It's got a demon face, right? And like it's just this amazing crown of horns, and while you're in awe of this thing coming at you and unloading your minigun, you just think to yourself, God damn, I'm glad I bought this game, right? And I was a huge fan. I was a massive fan. And then when I found out, I was like, this is the guy who did that. This is the guy. And I was like, I fanboyed like crazy about it. It is legitimately one of my favorite experiences in encountering a large enemy in a video game. Like legitimately, like eat your heart out, Doom Eternal.
yes.
And it was so good, and everything about it, just like I could tell that you like the person who made it immediately just from encountering it, the way it moved, its posture, the way it's like the weight of it and everything, and like the way it was modeled. I was like, this person knows animals, right? They think about animals the same way that I do, and when I think about creatures and stuff, it was wild. And so okay, things that about it. Okay, what's your favorite part of the design for the Deathclaw Fallout 4?
Oh, good question. I haven't been asked that before. I'd say there's two aspects. You mentioned the set of horns. In previous iterations, the horns very much kind of protrude from the head, kind of separately, independently, kind of like a Jackson chameleon. Well, I'll freely admit, I took a page right out of the Balrog playbook and united the horns into
Yeah.
the shape of the skull.
Heck yeah.
And I also created them in this kind of large, if you look at it from the side, it's very large kind of plate, like a flat plate shape.
Yeah,
The
I was
idea,
commenting on its 5 head. Yeah.
yeah, it's got a five, exactly, and it's got a huge flat set. And I was like, because in my mind, I'm like, this thing, it's a biological weapon, right? It's not a random mutant. It was created by the U.S. military and perfected by the master using FEV virus. So it's a biological weapon. So this thing rams people with these horns. So integrating that into the head shape and trying to create something iconic, because a lot of what makes something iconic is simplicity, is a simplicity in design. And so creating a very simple, really easy, a kid could draw it, silhouette for that head, I think is what helped.
I have a sticker of it on my Redbubble. I was able to, if I can do it. Yeah, no, I mean, like, no, for real, it is definitely iconic, like you said, like, because there's a bit of that battle rock. Also, another thing that I find, like, you know, that you say with the horns, like a large steer, like the kind of those bulls that have those massive horns.
Yes.
And you know, it speaks to, like, you know, movies and stuff. Like, you know, you've got I'm doing the ADH thing where I won't be able to remember the name. It's got Tim Curry with the giant horns. Anyway,
Not
Carmen.
not
This is
labyrinth,
listed
not
before.
fantasy. What is it?
Carmen's, he's listed it in. No, but yeah, it's amazing. But
Yeah,
it's got, like,
legend.
the bull
Yeah.
charge. Yeah, legend. Yeah, and the bull, it's got that bull charge aspect to it. It's just, again, like everything about it, like, works. But and I don't know if you ever noticed this, but I did while I was drawing the cartoon version of it. It's almost got like this omega symbol with, like, the head in the middle of it with the shape of the horns, which is in itself kind of awesome, right? Like, as it's charging towards you, the omega symbol will wreck you. It's just, it was, again, every time I see one show up in the game, and I'm surprised sometimes too, because I'm a terrible coward in games. I'm a stealth guy. Like, you put me in that game and there's a Deathclaw, I'm gonna hide around a corner.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to encounter this thing. I just want to watch it. I'm a nature documentarist in Fallout. I document the the Deathclaw as opposed to trying to kill it. One of the things I think is really cool about the Deathclaw thing that I don't know gets a lot of attention, but I think it's rad. Because there's what you did with the 1 in 4 with the hands. If you
Yes.
look at it from the front view, so from the side view, they look like werewolf hands. So they've got the big old, but the really big claw, which is chef's kiss. But from the front, when it's coming at you from the front, they kind of look like chameleon hands, because it's got that big old thick middle finger, right?
Yeah.
It's a middle finger, right? That's, like, really thick on it. And it does, you actually get the vibe that it maybe once crawled on branches and stuff. And I was like, fine, yeah, I see
Yeah.
it now.
Yeah, that's very tied to the second thing I was going to mention about it. It's basically my favorite thing is the length from the top spire of the topmost spike on its back. All you can kind of trace a line all the way down its arm, all the way down through that large middle finger. The whole point was I literally draw. If you look at it, there's lines flowing all down the arm, and it's meant to accentuate the length. You know, so it's already got super long arms to begin with. It's meant to make it look even longer.
Mission accomplished.
Something I really like about it is that the you know, when it's walking along, as you say, it's kind of swinging its arms, but then the moment it goes alert, the posture crouches low and the arms come out, and it's almost like the moment that happens, the silhouette entirely changes, and it's very wide and very frightening, and so. And
it is very frightening. I recall.
No, it's good. I'm really glad. What the animator did that. This guy Jang, he did a beautiful job, and getting those claws right. You know, because I think in the Fallout 3 version they had much skinnier claws, much more human hands, and then the more I started thinking about it, the more I thought, no, this thing lives or dies by its hands. You know, it has its teeth, but as far as how it's concerned, its teeth are for crunching bone, not for attacking. You know,
right? Yeah, and that's
because
clear in the design too, I think. Yeah.
And so I tried to keep actually its teeth minimal in number and actually kind of blunted looking, like they're actually not that sharp. Whereas opposed to in Fallout 3, they're much sharper and like more needle-like, but in Fallout 4, they're just thicker. But I tried to actually, what I did with the arms and hands is I made the claws even bigger. I made the fingers shorter and stubbier, and gave it irregularly sized claws with a little like kind of dew claw or thumb. And the idea being that this thing is used to running other creatures down and grabbing them. And as they're bucking and screaming and trying to twist away, the Fallout 3 version, it's at risk of breaking a finger.
Yeah,
It,
absolutely.
it digs its claws
Tiny
in, and
little
that thing
spindly
bucks
things.
and it breaks a finger. The Fallout 4 version, it's not breaking anything. Nothing.
Oh yeah, those claws are like 4 or 5 inches wide.
Yes.
Like, yeah, they're
Yeah.
crazy.
They're
Yeah,
they're real thick, and so yeah, it's designed to look believable. Yeah, and it's even got if you have anyone out there has cats, it has little toe beads.
Oh, it has beads. Oh man, I haven't noticed. Okay, guys, send me pictures of your Deathclaw toe beans in your playthroughs. Send them to me. Send them to mmp_podcast@outlook.com. I want them. I want your toe beans. Okay, so amazing. That's it's so good. Okay, other things. Oh, all right. We gotta talk the rumor. There is a rumor that Fallout and Skyrim are in the same universe. What is this about Nirnroot? There's Nirnroot? What is that? What is
You got me. I got nothing. I don't buy it. Not for a second.
You don't buy it? It's not real? It's not real. You heard it here first.
Not real.
Jonah Lobe. It's not real. Oh, Carbon found a great picture of the Deathclaw hands that you have. I'm looking at it right now. It's so good. The other thing too is that I notice about it is that like it's not a human hand, like by any means, and I think that's something that a lot of people go to too quickly with monsters. Give them human hands. No. You know what? Like having monstrous hands like that is such a vibe, and like. The way that the palm goes and everything, and I'm seeing the toe beans now and everything, and the way that the palm goes feels human. But when you look at the back of it, the way that you like this part, the back of the hand is not really there. It's going straight into kind of a reptilian, like it's been a modified reptilian foot that may have like one time. And again, I love you see it a lot in like monitor lizards and stuff that do run around fast on all fours. They have the I guess there's like, I don't know if you would call it dimorphism in the different fingers. I don't know if that's right, but they like each finger is a different size and they're kind of splayed out funny, right? On a lot of like alligators and things like that. And it plays into that too. Like everything vibes like it's a real thing. And it's just, man, one of my favorites. So good. I want to talk real quick because people will murder me if we don't, about dragons, because dragons are amazing. Let's talk Skyrim. Okay. Who's your okay, I think the question is the answer is probably obvious, but I got to ask the question. Who is your favorite dragon that you got to model?
Alduin.
I mean, okay, yeah, we knew that was the answer, right? I mean, come on. Okay, so now if you can't say that as an answer, do you have a second favorite?
I really enjoyed making what is it called, the ancient dragon or something. It's the kind of orangish one with blue markings. It has kind of a thicker beak on it, like a big thick high beak. I can't remember. So I made all the dragons in the vanilla game, not in the DLCs, because by the time the DLCs rolled around, I made like Arvak, the flaming horse, and then I moved on to Fallout 4.
Yeah, right.
And so,
the Skyrim horses. Wait. We got to stop right there. The Skyrim horse is a whole meme. What was it like to see the Skyrim horse meme while working at Bethesda? Because there must have been. Was there like a team meeting about this? Be like, guys, the horse. Like, what was that like? Seeing that, like, because that exploded. I think it was Penny Arcade, right? Did a thing about that. And from what I know about Penny Arcade is if Penny Arcade does a comic about your video game, that's a bad day at the studio for if you're a dev.
No, I think any press is good press, and I think the Skyrim horse meme is brilliant. I love it. I talked to Leanne, the animator for the horses, and I think she's really into it. I think nobody has any problem with it. It's the same idea behind when the giants kill you and you fly up into the atmosphere.
Oh yeah,
that was
man.
we
So good.
uncovered that bug the very first thing after shipping the game, and we decided as a team that we were not going to be fixing that because that is too good.
So good. I'm so glad that was an actual team decision. It's like, No, we're keeping it.
No,
The
everyone
horse
gets a kick
thing.
out of it. Yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah, the horse thing was straight up just a bug, like when you these things get under the radar sometimes, and you can't edge case for like the stupid crap that people do in their games, right? Like oh my god, like I know I do, right? You're like because the intrusive thoughts they leak in, and you're like I'm just gonna leap off this cliff with my horse. I'm gonna Yoshi this horse and see what happens, right? And then suddenly the horse is fine, but you plummet to your death, and you're like wait a minute, right? Like and Skyrim horse is like I still reference Skyrim horse to this day because it's one of my favorite things ever. And it's like one of those things. If you know, you know, right? Like it's like if you don't know this, you're probably too young to be talking to me in the first place. I don't know. But Skyrim horse, amazing. Okay, dragons. Tell me about what is your? I mean, I think maybe who was okay when at some point along the development lines, y'all had the decision to make. You had the conversation. 4 legs and wings or 2 legs and wings, right?
Yeah, well, I think it was pretty much settled out the gate. I think because Akatosh, the god Akatosh, I believe, is a wyvern. Let me just look this up real quick.
Oh,
Akatosh.
so like officially wyvern, like lore wise, because I'm not a lore reader when I play
Yeah,
games. I like things to be read to me.
I believe lore-wise, at least I think in Oblivion, Akatosh enters the picture in the last final
Dragon out of
act, the
time.
final moments of the game, and Akatosh is a wyvern. And so
Oh.
yeah, so I think the dragons of the Tamriel universe are wyverns, basically.
Naturally they would be in that kind of form. Okay, well that is a great question answered. You know what? Better than Game of Thrones version of the answer. So you know what? Yes, this gets a pass. And again, guys, this is all just a joke because dragons are dragons. These are okay. Listen, there are drake dragons and there are wyvern dragons, but they're all dragons. Okay. Okay. So also originally, if we're gonna go that far back, if you want to be a nerd about it, in the original Lord of the Rings, there were dragons that didn't even have wings, and there were some that didn't even breathe fire. So check your lore. Anyway,
Yeah, I think
okay,
whenever people try to come down too hard in terms of
yeah.
like, oh no, but that's not a dragon, that's a wyvern.
Hmm.
Listen, I'm a professional geek, but
Yeah,
whenever I hear that,
actual expert.
I just want to tell them like, shut up, nerd.
It's true.
Like
It's you know what I
it's
just
not real.
sometimes
Like,
people need to tell me shut up, nerd. It's
well,
important to do.
because also the thing about it is, dragons exist across cultures, and so for someone at some point to be like, you know what, from now on, we're quantifying wyverns and dragons as completely separate entities. Sorry, like you don't
Gatekeeping.
get
Why are
to
you
then you don't
gatekeeping
get to plaster
dragons?
that very very arbitrary rule across
Yeah.
all dragons everywhere. I don't buy it. Wyverns are dragons. Dragons, and they're in my mind, wyverns are a subspecies of dragon, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It
So
doesn't.
yeah,
It doesn't matter. It
yeah.
doesn't matter. Also, the posture is so cool on a wyvern style dragon. Like you
I
can't.
think it's cool.
Okay, it's so great. You get the arched back. It looks menacing, right? It takes into account the whole long neck of a dragon, which is like a little weird, right? Like design wise, like if you're like us and you're like an animal nerd and a nature nerd, trying to square the fact that it has this long neck, you're like, but why though, right? If it has 4 legs, right? Like it's like, is it just a giraffe with wings? I guess. Is it eating leaves? Does it like salad? But like yeah, there's the 2-legged one. There's I mean, again, there's not a lot. Okay, there's no actual. Putting wings on a 4-legged animal is problematic when you start getting into the musculature and the leg and everything. Like it's a thing. If you're the kind of like autistic that I am, at least. But I love the posture and everything, and of the dragons. The dragon fights are fantastic in Skyrim. Uh, horns on a dragon. That's like a nerd test for you. It's like horns on a dragon. Do you know the reason why they traditionally have so many damn horns?
I don't know. No, I don't know. I think a lot of it comes down to majesty. I think like it creates this majesty where it elevates them from a simple animal like a lizard
Yeah,
into
absolutely. To something
something,
greater,
yeah, something much greater.
mystical.
Exactly. And so with someone like Alduin, for instance, you have these huge 2 horns. And I remember as I was modeling Alduin, I started really pushing out lot of the horns on him to give him, full set of them. And Todd came by and said, no, 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 no. He needs to have two major ones. That's the look. And he was right. That did end up being
That
totally the look.
silhouette,
And yeah,
right? That
yeah.
iconic. Yeah. I read somewhere in a book a long time ago, and I damned if I can't remember where it was, but it made a lot of sense to me. And it was about dragons and stuff, and they referred to the horns as a crown
Yeah.
because dragons are the king of mystical monsters because they're
Yep.
everywhere. And I'm like, you know what? That works for my headcanon. There's the boy himself. So beautiful. Carbon's doing great with the links for me. Just menacing and amazing. And the fights are like they happen all the time. There are like so many dragon fights in Skyrim, right? Like it's just like you're lousy with dragons. You can't throw a rock without hitting a dragon in Skyrim, and it's wonderful. It's amazing. I mean, and also a lot of other stuff that I was into. Did you have anything to do with the werewolf stuff? I mean, like I'm just a werewolf guy. I'm like a big fan.
No, I loved werewolves, but no, my friend Dennis made the werewolves. Yeah.
Ooh, well, my compliments because I just like again my idea of like I come from an age where Werewolf the Apocalypse the
Yeah, I
tabletop
remember that game.
RPG was huge. I played a lot of that in high school, and the Krynos werewolf, that's the werewolf for me. I don't want
Me too.
don't give me no Wolfman or any of this nonsense like that,
Me too.
or I'm just a really big dire wolf. No. Just
No,
give me
no.
the Christ. You give me that rock star. You give me that Van Helsing rock star werewolf with like the long flowing hair, and he's just like, ooh, he's all yes. That's
Yes,
that's a werewolf.
Same here. Same here. Absolutely. No, they for most of my life, werewolves were my favorite. And then I will say when Dennis made them for Skyrim, the long arm look and the posture there was a huge inspiration for me for the Deathclaw. Just in terms of just build and length of arms and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, like it's good. Like I mean, like and again, like the hulking. There's something about that kind of lumbering arm kind of thing that's just like it's menacing. It's like you know what it is? It kind of vibes again, not I'm not much of a sports guy. I don't know if you can tell, but like I played like this one season of like football, which I had a lot of fun in high school and stuff. I kind of had wished that I had done more of it and stuff but in the past, but it was a lot of fun. And one thing I noticed about that kind of like form and stuff like that, it vibes linebacker about to grab someone, like that whole pose, and it's like they plant their feet, the arms go out, and you're like, well, I'm done, right? Like, and it's like no matter what you do, it's gonna grab you, and it vibes, it hits somewhere, kind of like visceral if you're a kind of person who's played some team sports. Okay, let me see. Oh, and we have this one last. I have a pre-question from chat. Carbon, I'm gonna get you to start reading some questions from chat for Jonah and stuff like that before we get into like some maybe like a little bit of how much time we got left. We got a little bit of time left before we get into some AI chat and stuff like that. But we had a specific question from chat from someone that we both know is someone who's been in both of our chats, and they asked, they said to me, "Yo, Molt, you, I have to leave, but before I go, before Jonah gets on, or I have to leave before Jonah gets on, but make sure to ask him about the ginormous irradiated ghoul he made." Okay, so apparently this is some Jonah Lobe stream lore. What is this ginormous irradiated ghoul?
So yeah, good question. Before I left Bethesda, I wanted to give back somehow, right? Like I only had a couple weeks left, and I thought, like, what can I do in just a couple weeks and give the team that they can use? And I thought for a while maybe I'll do a Wanamingo from Fallout 1 and 2, and I started in on that, and then I was like, no, I don't know. I want to do something more dramatic. And so, in my mind, the world of Fallout is very iconic in a number of ways, particularly the power armor, helmet, and the shape of the vault entrance and Vault Boy and Pip Boy, or Vault Boy. And those are kind of what makes the series iconic. The problem is every time a Fallout game comes out, it's the same icons every time. And so in my mind, they needed something different. They needed something new for the next Fallout that would set them apart and be iconic but different. And I was thinking about like games like old school games like Citizen Kabuto and things like that, where it had really, 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 really big monsters, really big monsters. And, Fallout is a game that, the world is haunted by the specter of nuclear radiation and nuclear war. And so I wanted to create something that would be so fucking big that you could see it. It was part of the landscape that you could see it from far away. And so I conceived of, based on these sculptures by, you've probably seen them before, Giacometti's Walking Man.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
It's a very, he uses a very kind of like pinched clay, very lumpy kind of like look, creates these very kind of cool, kind of creepy, very skinny, tall silhouettes, very, very straight up and down.
You know what? The kids would be like, it vibes a little Siren Head, but yeah. Like that. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It's very Siren Head. And so I was trying to create something like Siren Head for the Fallout universe. And so I conceived of essentially a giant glowing one. Glowing ones are feral ghouls who are so irradiated that they are glowing, and they give off radiation, and they even heal other feral ghouls nearby with their radiation. I conceived of one that would fit within the Fallout universe insofar as it's got a retro idea of, it's basically Attack of the 500-Foot Man, essentially. And, to me, that was like a cool retro idea to play off that would seem very in line with the Fallout universe. So I created a really, really huge, giant melting man, super skinny. Cool. And I called him the Maypole. Basically like those kind of, fairground, kind of very tall pole that you would dance around. And
so scary.
So
yeah.
I envisioned it basically being this, less of a monster, less of a villain or an enemy, and more of a force of nature. So big that you couldn't even take it down with conventional weaponry. And everywhere that it went, it would leave a path of radiation everywhere, and it was followed everywhere by an army of feral ghouls. And so if you look up Fallout Maypole, you'll see pictures of what I created. And I never finished texturing it. In fact, I barely even began texturing it, but I just sculpted the whole thing.
So
I gave
cool.
it to Bethesda. I said, please use this. And I think even this one concept artist, Ray Lederer, started working on a painting of this thing fighting Liberty Prime. But in the end, I don't think it really ever had a chance of being added to the game. It was too game breaking. And so the Maypole was never a thing. And so I'm hoping,
bad.
One day, that the lore for it builds up to the
Fallout
degree
76.
that people decide that they need to add it.
Fallout 76, Bethesda, make good decisions. Put that into Fallout 76, and we will all love it. Before we get to the questions, I had a couple of questions of my own. One, do you play Fallout 76?
No.
And if you do or if you don't, will you start playing, and will you play it with me? Because I just got it and I have no one to play with. And you know what? I played like 10, 20 minutes of it, and all the, I gotta give it to Bethesda. The updates and all the because I didn't play it when it launched, right? I saw a lot of the bad press and everything. I was like, I'm not interested in it. And I was like, well, it's the old engine. I was one of the grumpy gamers, right? But listen, Fallout 76 did have a lot of updates to it and stuff like that. I mean, they have a lot of synergy going now and stuff like that up with the show and stuff, which I want to make sure we touch on before I let you go. But like Fallout 76 is pretty good now. It's actually pretty good. So if you do get the itch, man, open invitation to play. We can maybe do some streaming and stuff if you get some time. It might be fun.
I mean, I never played it. I was never very interested in the concept of an open world Fallout because for me, the magic of Bethesda, it really has always been a single player experience, and I go to Bethesda for that single player experience. I also, I know
that's how I was playing it actually, and I've been enjoying it. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to make any friends. I'm just going to go off into the woods with my gun, and I'm going to hunt things. And I've like that's the experience I want too. So I agree. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, not at all. No, yeah. I never played it. And unfortunately, right now I'm in a period where I really can't afford to play games because I'm working on this comic book, and I know myself. I know I don't have an addictive personality except where games are concerned. And if I have a game that I really like on my computer, like if I made the mistake right now of installing Baldur's Gate 3, my life would be gone.
Oh man, it's so good. Okay, well I tell you what, would you get the other side with the comic and stuff? Because Oh man, but I don't know. Comics are like, you know what? You start being an indie creator, it's a lifestyle. It never seems to
Yeah,
go away, right? But if
yeah,
you do find yourself some time, I love that game so much. I would be totally down to play that game with you. Like,
so good.
100%. I've played that Act One of that game with people so many times.
I've never
God,
done that.
it's so good. It's
Oh,
so good.
oh, I
Monster
know
Hunter
it.
is the other game I do that with. I will play that game with literally anyone from the start because you can just gear down. You don't actually your character never levels. It's just gear. So and because the game loop is just the fights are so much fun that I'm happy to do it at like any level. I'm just like, yeah, let's go. And get my Switch Axe. Yeah, so open invitation on the Baldur's Gate for sure. Okay, let's get to but before we talk about some of your new stuff because like I want to get to that and everything.
Yeah,
People
of
will
course.
have questions about the stuff we were just talking about
Yeah,
for
let's
sure.
let's do
So,
it.
Carbon, if you're ready, have you got
Hello.
some questions for us? Hey, there's Carbon. Some questions. How many questions do you
We do
have?
we do have just a few questions.
Okay.
First off, chat is curious about what some of your more out there or niche inspirations for some of your favorite creations are, and the giants from Skyrim and your dad don't count.
Oh man, see, chat knows. Chat knows about Jonah. Jonah used
I
to stream
actually
for a
did
while.
not know this. Chat had to explain this one to me. So if you'd like to explain for others who don't know, Jonah.
Yeah, that would be great.
Um, can you repeat the question one more time?
They're curious about what some of your more out there or niche inspirations are for some of your favorite creations.
Okay, okay. Um, yeah, so they're referring to I modeled the giant to look like my father, and so that's basically. Little did you know that the Skyrim giant is actually just like
Your dad been
a
whooping everybody's ass
yeah.
around Skyrim for years.
He's just a 75-year-old Jewish man from Seattle. Is basically
Oh
that's the
man,
Skyrim giant.
I would be afraid to then. You know what?
I think we
I
need a
mean,
mod for that.
oh, can we? No, don't do that. Don't do that to the to Jonah's
and then
dad.
and then let me think. And then I'm trying to think of what else. Well, for the ghouls for Fallout 3, I textured them. They have kind of translucent skin. I textured them using a bunch of images of packaged meat.
Oh,
So I found
weird. So
all these
like with the
pictures.
wrap on top, like
Yeah,
the cling wrap, right?
yeah, exactly. So
Oh,
I took a
that's why
bunch of
they're so
pictures of that,
gross.
and so you can kind of see all like the bones and meat underneath them because it's actual chicken and pork and things like that. Um,
Oh, oh.
so that's probably the biggest one. Small things is I gave the Fallout 4 mole rats subtle phallic imagery in their shape and head. I gave the blood bugs from Fallout 4. I made them look both like mosquito hawks with the long, the big kind of crane fly long legs, but I also made them look like skeletal hands dangling. Let me think. And the Draugr from Skyrim, their skin texture especially, I based on a real life mummy called Otzi. Was it Otzi the caveman or Otzi the Iceman?
Oh wow.
Otzi, Otzi the Iceman. If you look at him,
This is so
he's
cool.
got this. He was found in a glacier, which I think made sense. And if you look at
Yeah,
the
yeah,
pictures of
I know
him,
what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah. God,
yeah,
I
you
have a
see in the colors
crazy.
right away that I basically it's the exact same color
I
scheme.
see, like I get it now, right? Like, because I was like, this vibe's so hard, like it's ancient. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, carving out the link. It's. I always wondered about that too, because I was like, was it a conscious choice? I mean, that's crazy. That's great to know that it was. Oh man, yeah. I mean, I have a love hate relationship with those damn things because I'm very vulnerable to jump scares. Okay, that Skyrim it's taken years off my life. I think. Okay, you guys are probably also Bethesda is also probably responsible for a good deal of this gray hair. Okay, which I have to thank you for because it's been working for me. Okay, so next question, Carbon.
So this one's actually from me. Should
Carbon
you
question.
ever actually have to face a Deathclaw or a dragon, what would be your weapon of choice in their respective worlds?
Oh, so okay, wait, this is a two-part question. So, okay, you are a person. You Jonah Lobe are in the world, right? And you have to fight a dragon in Skyrim, and you have to fight a Deathclaw in What are you packing? What are you bringing?
Oh man. I guess if we're talking about kind of real life scenario, geez, I mean, I would say a spear, for the dragon, but once you throw that guy, it's gone. So that's a huge bummer.
Yeah.
Um, I would
So,
probably
so
have to
maybe more of like
say
a two-handed long spear that you just keep some distance.
right, right. Or
Halberd, maybe.
Also thinking of something
That's
that has
big
kind of
kill.
blunt force, like either a battle axe or like a mace, that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
just to
Break that
really,
armor.
really hit that thing and try to get, because I feel like a sword or something is just insufficient. You need something that's going to maybe,
Absolutely.
hopefully, break
So
bones or something.
disregarding game mechanics and stuff like that, like his like real world Jonah Lobe versus Skyrim Dragon, what would you wait? What would you aim for? You made these things. How would you Jonah Lobe, their maker, unmake these dragons? What's the vulnerable point?
Probably the feet.
Oh,
I'd
really?
probably try to run for it and then dodge when it tried to go after me, and then go for the underside of the neck and the feet, kind of, and really and
All
try to just
right.
keep behind it, I guess. I remember, fighting in dragons in Elden Ring. That was definitely the technique, right? You get around them, get behind them.
Yeah.
The best call. You don't want. I just feel like the most dangerous place to be is facing it.
Oh,
You know.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, and then no, same thing. Deathclaw. I'm not
Deathclaw.
sure which is scarier. Like the dragon, you already know this is the scariest thing you're bound to face, like on this planet. But the Deathclaw shows up, and I mean, like, oh man, you're prepared. What do you bring
I guess like a
besides a mini nuke? Like
yeah.
a mini
Besides
nuke is
mini nuke,
cheating. That's
I
yeah.
probably like an assault shotgun. You need something that's going to hit
Oh
it
yeah.
and hopefully make it stumble, because if it moves very
Oh,
quickly. And I just think
stun lock. Yeah.
small caliber bullets won't do anything. You know.
Oh, definitely. I would not. I'm not bringing. Listen, I am not going to bring anything that's like a 9 mil or something like that. To like even like you know what? Even like you know what? No, honestly, give me a bazooka. I have like a lot of range. Can that be a
I
thing?
feel
I can bring range.
I feel like a 50 BMG would do some damage.
Ooh, definitely. But you know what? Listen, I mean, Jonah's like me. I'm a run and gun guy, kind of guy. When I play Helldivers, I'm packing a shotgun if I can. And listen, a big old drum magazine shotgun would make me feel much safer around a Deathclaw.
Agreed.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All
So
right.
that's fantastic. Next question.
And somewhat related, which is kind of interesting because chat did not know about my question just before this.
Oh.
What would win in a fight? All the dragons in the Elder Scrolls or 1,000,000 Deathclaws?
Hmm.
Man, this is one of those questions that Jonah was talking about earlier, where you're like, "You fucking nerds!" No, okay, a
No, no,
million,
no.
a
Because that's a lot of
million death claws.
Deathclaws.
That's a lot of death
That's a,
claws.
that's a lot of
Okay,
Deathclaw. I will say Deathclaw, because I think the Deathclaws for sure. I think because
overwhelming force.
yeah, overwhelming force, and I think also once a Deathclaw gets close, I just don't think a
It,
dragon. I think a dragon is actually too unwieldy to fight it well. I think because also I think a Deathclaw will be small enough also that it could grapple. It could grab onto a dragon, and then the dragon tries to
it
take
could just
off, and
tear up
now
those
you just got a
wings
dragon.
too.
Now you just have a Deathclaw on you. So I think
Yeah,
How
yeah.
high can a Deathclaw jump?
well, it can run fast, and so I think a dragon trying to hit it with flame would not work very well. So I think the dragon would have to land, and then I think close quarters, it just doesn't have the maneuverability, of a Deathclaw.
Agreed. Especially if,
That's fair.
again,
That's fair.
I think I don't know about you, but are you picturing this happening in the Fallout world for some reason? Like I'm picturing this happening in a city for some reason. But again, even if this was in a forest or something, I'm thinking Deathclaws jump up, they pile on. Like again, we have there's precedent in nature, army ants and stuff like that, right? That many Deathclaws, forget it. The
I
dragons are
agree.
done.
I agree. I agree. They're also physically equipped to actually cut a throat of a dragon. Like they're one of the few things that
True.
can actually potentially do that. And yeah, I think dragons are always best suited to fight knights. Slow guys with swords covered in metal. That is a snack for. And ironically, I think it's funny enough. I think a guy in dressed in metal with a sword has a better chance against a Deathclaw. Because a Deathclaw might have a harder time getting inside.
Yeah, I mean, at least it'd have to work for its meal, at least. Ooh. I mean, power armor, right? I mean, power armor does sort of work. So
That's it.
Maybe.
Power. They are knights, right? The Brotherhood of Steel are knights.
Listen, the legends of the whole knights fighting dragons, it came from somewhere, right? There's got to be something to it, right? I mean, magic swords, maybe. I don't know. Whatever it is. Listen, it's still my headcanon. I still love fantasy, right? So, that's all that. So valid. Do we have any more questions from chat?
That's all we have for now. Maybe we'll get some more
worries.
as you guys continue the discussion.
Well, we can't keep Jonah forever, but we
Unrelated to
need to
this.
talk. we definitely need to talk a little bit. I'm going to talk to Jonah a bit more about his upcoming stuff that people may not know about, because this is all the stuff we've all been talking about. The stuff that a lot of us have known about. Let's start with because it's amazing. The Fallout TV show. What was that like for you to watch?
I loved it. I think they did a really good job of respecting the source material. They didn't try to just go off and do their own thing. They really respected the video games, and that was really, you see that very rarely. And even when they try to pull it off, it's very hard to pull off. And I think it's a really hard universe to pull off convincingly. It's funny, it's violent, it's dark, and it's a parody of 1950s America. Racism, jingoism, nationalism, showing off kind of the military-industrial complex at its full height, and a government that is basically, it's the U.S. government, but it's basically a fascist state. It's basically not anything, so it's a parody of us, and they did a really good job. I think ironically, of all the things they did right, I knew they had it best. The moment I knew they had it is one of the flashback advertisements that the guy does, the actor in that, and he's doing an advertisement where he's talking to a family in a vault, and he's got his hand on the kid's shoulder and all that, but he's just smoking a cigarette the whole time.
Yeah,
and one of those tiny little touches that I thought to myself, you guys get it. Like, you get it.
Absolutely.
You get it. Like, you would never do that today, but you wouldn't even think about it back
there's
then.
this this sense, and again, so many of us of our generation look at those times and stuff like that, and we see like this lack of awareness of that. But again, like it's like symptomatic, but they use it in such a great way to paint villainy. Right, and it's so that, and the villainy is so deep, like surprisingly deep. Like, again, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen the show. If you have not seen the show, my God, go see it. I'm gonna watch it again after this interview. I feel like it's so good. Who's your favorite character?
I mean, the ghoul is an obvious choice, a little too obvious. Honestly, Ella Purnell's character was just. She knocked it out of the park. She's got the look for it. She's cute. She has these big anime. Yeah, she's got these big anime eyes.
Yeah,
and she's so cute and so innocent with her whole golly gee thing. But then when shit hits the fan and she starts killing people, you also believe it. And so
that moment
I thought she did a beautiful job.
Yeah, when she pulls out the thing and she's like, "Well, I got to cut this guy's head off," right? And then like there's like it's her her comedic timing cannot be understated. It's so good. I love the ghoul. I'm an edgelord. I'm gonna pick the ghoul because like he's just he knocked that so out of the park. I had goosebumps during some of those performances. It was so. Yeah, I'm such a fan. I'm like group watch it with friends and stuff like that. It's gonna be,
I watched it with my wife, and I mean, she's never played the games, but she knows enough about the lore in the world, and she loved it. She was really into it. And what I'm really excited about is the executive producers have confirmed Deathclaw's in season 2.
Yes. Oh, they just hint at it at the very end.
Yep.
Right. There's the skull, and I leapt out of my chair. Like, I haven't been this excited. Like, I don't get this excited for movies or anything, but I leapt out of my chair and I was like, oh, and I was like, I can't wait to talk to Jonah about this. Like, so what was that? Did you know beforehand, before you saw it?
I knew from the internet. I I didn't know. No one had told me, whatever, outside of that. I knew from the internet, but what I was really, really excited to see is that it's my Fallout 4 Deathclaw.
Yeah. I saw that the horns, and I was like, yes.
Yes.
I was overjoyed because especially because like when the shot starts. Oh my god! Like I would love to be able to talk to the people involved in making that show. My
Me
God,
too.
you guys are
Me too.
you guys
I
are
wish they
geniuses.
would
Yeah,
reach out
both
to
of
me.
us want to talk to you. Yeah, yeah. Reach out to both of us. We want to talk to you. Pick your brains because oh my god, you guys are artists that are doing that. And like there's that whole scene. It shows you the Fallout New Vegas, which like which I know you like you weren't involved with that. That was a separate studio that was like subcontracted, right? Like,
Yeah, no, but I
to
mean,
do
they
that.
use my art and everything for it. But yeah.
Right. But it was like it was a different development team, but like everybody sort of knows that, right? But like a lot of people have great feelings about New Vegas, and I was like, oh yeah, New Vegas. It's a very iconic city that they're going to and stuff
Oh
like
yeah.
that.
Brilliant.
Good choice on their part. Because at first I was like, but Megaton. I was like, no, wait, right? I was like, oh, it's, and then so that was surprising because that they would go to that one, which was cool. I was happily surprised. And then at the same scene, they show you the Deathclaw skull, and you're just like, it's the new one. And I was just like, oh, all my dreams are coming true for this show. Prime, if you cancel the show before we get season 2, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be just don't do it, please. Oh my god, I need it. I need it so badly. It's like my reason for being at this point. Okay, so that's amazing. Now we have to talk about your comic. This is your new venture. You've gone indie. Now you said this is like you said 3 years you've been working. You've been doing this. Now I know you did a couple other things on the interim. Like there was a Marvel Anatomy thing. Definitely go check that out. It's super rad. And then but you're like the thing you've been working on. Like your passion project now is this comic. Tell me about the comic.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I got this gig, Marvel Anatomy, which is basically a compendium of Marvel facts and all that things, showing the insides of heroes and how they do what they do. And it was really cool. I'm really glad I did it. It'll be in print forever. I get to sell it at Comic Cons and I get cred with the comic community. It's been great. But, having done these Marvel things and having done Skyrim and Fallout and all these things, it's been a huge honor, but none of this belongs to me.
Right,
And
not your world.
and it like it's I'm tired of being a behind the scenes kind of guy, and I want to have a greater hand in story and in world building and that kind of thing. And so
I feel that so hard.
I started getting this idea. I had drawn iterations of this tiny little skeleton in the years before the summer of 2020. When the summer of 2020 hit, I decided I was going to do this little series of like 12 images about a little story about a little skeleton named Quiet. It was supposed to be whimsical. It was supposed to be cute. I kind of realized I've been spending my career doing horrible, terrible, monstrous things. And in the summer of 2020, when COVID was everywhere and everybody was stuck inside and all that, I realized people are not looking for that right now. People
Oh
are
yeah,
looking
no,
for more
nobody wants
different.
another monster. They're
No,
looking at one in the
exactly.
mirror every day, be like, "How long has it been since I showered? I work from home." Right? Yeah,
I
yeah,
am the monster. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah. So cute.
I created a story that was much more whimsical. And what I realized is there was a huge response to it. Is that people, even though these were original drawings that I did, that were unconnected to everything else, people seem to really like it. And so I started thinking more and more about that. So over the course of working on Marvel Anatomy, I was thinking about this world. And when Marvel Anatomy finished, I decided, you know what, now's the time. Rather than looking for more contract work, rather than looking for odd jobs or maybe even looking for a full-time job, I should just bite the bullet, spend some time, and make a thing. And I started kind of outlining this kind of 80-page, what I called an 80-page super issue. Story all about Quiet, who's a little skeleton who cannot speak. He could speak in this 12-part series I did, but then I decided later on, no, he's a non-speaking protagonist. And it's basically, my pitch for this is, how does a level 1 skeleton defeat a level 99 barbarian? And
Oh
so
yeah, okay.
it's about,
All right.
so the barbarian is a guy named Gallahorn, and he has his horns. He has horns on his helmet that look a lot. Actually, you mentioned Legend and Tim Curry's character. They're really, really big horns, comically large.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen that in the image on your website. Also, guys, definitely go check out Jonah's website because there's an image right on there that we're talking about right now. So it's jonahlobe.com, right?
Yep.
Yep, go to
JonahLobe.com.
jonahlobe.com. Check it out. Right. Yeah. So he's got this big. So he's got the barbarian. I got the little skeleton. All right. So and then now what's is this
then-
like a what's the motivation of this little skeleton? Like
Yeah, so it takes place on the Tree of Worlds, and Tree of Worlds is a bit like the Norse Yggdrasil, Tree of
was
Life,
just gonna- yeah.
and it has different Except imagine that combined with Super Mario World kind of level design. So it's a kind of a video game-esque world where every world, every branch on the Tree of Worlds that goes up and up and up is a new land altogether with new NPCs, new quests, new rewards, new monsters, all these things. And the goal of the villain is to get from the bottom to the top. And at the top, when he's there, he then has the power to destroy the Tree of Worlds.
Wow.
And so Quiet has been basically recruited for means we don't really understand. At the same time as Gallowhorn entered the world in level 1 and started just wrecking shit. There was kind of an equal and opposite reaction where this little skeleton emerged from a mirror, and now they've been tasked with taking down Gallowhorn. And so Quiet level 1 is the first graphic novel. So it expanded from an 80-page super issue into a 200-page graphic novel.
Oh,
and
damn.
It is basically the story of their quest to try to prevent Gallowhorn from escaping level 1 and reaching the surface. Because level 1, it all takes place in an underground labyrinth among the roots of the world tree.
So so it's like he's literally this is the foundation of his story and the foundation of the tree.
Yes, exactly.
That's great.
Exactly.
I love that. So I don't know if you want to spill too many beans, but every story is about another story, right? So is there like an underlying thing? Is this story like a story about something else? Like is this about like a story about loss or something like that, or a story about about growing up, about finding like what is this story really about?
If I had to quantify it, I would say this is a story about trying to overcome insurmountable odds and then trying to stand up to existential threats that are completely unbeatable. And I think that makes sense to me in many ways. Quiet is not strong. Quiet is small. They have the body the size of a toddler and a big oversized head. And they're just plainly outmatched in every way for the adventure to come. And I think a lot of us feel outmatched. And I feel a lot of us, I think it's a very human thing to feel like you're getting knocked down all the time, or you can't get your break, and things are not working out, and you're not up to the task ahead, and things keep knocking you down. I think that's very human, and unfortunately, it's whenever we end up in this place in our lives, it's not a time when we connect with others. It's a time when we feel very alone and very helpless. And so I want to create a story about a character who is plainly outmatched, who has to do it anyway. Because this is what they must do. And so I think that we all feel that in our private lives. I think the constant battering cavalcade of bad news every day that we get in the news makes us feel like we are small and we don't have any hope and everything's doomed. Everything's fucked. And so Quiet, I think their defining characteristic is that, yes, they get knocked down, but they get up again. In the words of Chumbawamba.
Yeah, no one ever gonna keep him down. I love it.
Never gonna keep him down.
Great. I mean, it vibes so true. I think I can't.
Well, I tried to. I'm a big believer in fantasy. I love fantasy, but I say often that basically, in fantasy you can create anything you want, but that doesn't mean it means anything. And so you have to really think really hard about why you're doing what you're doing and why you believe in what you're doing. And so when I was trying to come up with this idea, and I was really interrogating myself, why should anyone care about Quiet? Why does this matter at all? And I came to the conclusion that this is, Quiet is every one of us who feels like they're a failure, who feel like they're getting knocked down, and who feels like they are not up to the tasks that life have put before them. And that has been kind of my guiding light in terms of trying to create the story. And so, yeah, Quiet level 1. It's about a very, very overwhelmed little skeleton and their little sidekick, a little caterpillar called the narrator worm, who essentially narrates their story. And they're trying to go up against an unstoppable brute and a horrible, evil knife with an eye in it called Threadcutter.
Oh man. Okay, he hits me with the cliffhanger on there. Now I really got to check it out. Okay. So if somebody wants to check this out, where's the best place to do that? Where's the best place for them to get a hold of a copy of this?
Yeah. So I'm working on it now. I launched it on Kickstarter a couple months ago, and it did quite well. Ended up being 1,000% funded. And,
oh damn!
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So if you just Google Quiet Level 1 Kickstarter, that's where you can pick it up. There's There'll be posters. There are little metal figurines of Quiet that I myself modeled and that have been made now. They're not pewter. They're real white brass. They're really beautiful.
Oh,
The book will
cool.
come in digital, comes in soft cover, comes in hardcover. And if you're listening to this and you haven't already, go check out the Kickstarter website. You can watch the little intro video there. It's really good video. And I encourage you to jump on board because this is basically going to be my plan is that it's going to start arriving on people's doorsteps in about a year.
Oh
And so,
man, this is exciting.
yeah.
Oh
In
man,
fa-
and
as soon as I'm done with this interview, I'm going to jump right back into working on panels.
oh, oh man, that's so awesome. And I will make sure that we get the link to Jonah's Kickstarter. It will be in the notes of the podcast. So if you're watching it, the video podcast on YouTube, check the description. It's right there. It's right there. Why didn't you do that? And then if not, if you're listening to the audio version, it will be in the description of there. Go ahead, definitely check it out. The art is amazing. It's so good. Jonah's got such an amazing grasp of like a form and shape and stuff, and it's got this imposing barbarian. It's so damn cool. You need to check it out. I'm so excited about this.
Thank you.
Okay, so we covered that. I think Carbon, we have possibly a couple more questions from the chat.
Yes, just a couple more short ones.
Cool.
So talking about the Fallout show and how successful that has been, and how excited you were for it, even though you didn't work on it, you saw some of your work in there, of course. What unsuccessful video game adaptation would you like to see more successfully adapted, and what would be the media you would choose?
Oh, so like something you're a fan of that's a little obscure or that hasn't gotten a lot of play?
Yeah, or something that, maybe, had a big production that didn't really hit with the fans as much as they may have wanted. The example they were talking about in chat was the Halo series, which some people liked and they liked, but
Well, okay, I'm glad they mentioned that. Let me just say real quick, because like I was a little worried when I saw Fallout. No lie,
Me too.
because we had seen I'm sorry about this, guys. Rings of Power it started out so beautiful. It looks gorgeous, but there was some things about it I loved, right? But there were like it was a little bit of a letdown towards the end. I haven't watched the new season. That's got to speak to it a little bit. But that one wasn't as bad. Halo was so disappointing, so disappointing. They obviously did not understand Chief. And people's fandom for Chief and the way he is, but and then like so what do you think? What would you like to see treated? What property would you like to see, like say Prime give the Fallout show treatment to?
Wow. That's hard. So I really, even though they got a bunch of things wrong, I thought the Silent Hill movie was good, the first one at least. I think Doom is one of the all-time greatest failures when it came to translating.
It's one of those guilty pleasure ones I'll watch just to sort of like lampoon it while I'm watching.
Yes.
I mean, who doesn't like to see The Rock doing their thing?
It's
Yeah.
silly. I mean, I watch
Totally.
it with the same thing. The same kind of like. It's ironically the same way I watch like a Demolition Man, be like, it's the greatest movie of the '90s, right? Like, but yeah, so yeah, Doom. Any other ones?
I'm trying to think of other ones here. Warcraft, I think I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, the special effects were fantastic, and the story just looked so boring and terrible. I was so confused by that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was okay. So if you're a Hollywood story exec and you're given the 4 billion pages of WoW lore, you're probably going to zero in on the like, wow, we know this story. It's a little bit like the story of Moses, right? And then it's like, yeah, we'll do that, right? Like, I mean, like that was completely a studio exec. Like, I could just call it. That was a studio executive choice. I feel.
Yeah, exactly. A guy who didn't understand the source material at all, right? Exactly. I mean, who thought he did, but then didn't get it, and then kind of just forgot that they're supposed to be fun. They're supposed to be. You need characters with charisma and all these things.
The Dungeons and Dragons movie did a great job with it. They understood.
They did.
It's kind of humor forward, right?
Yes.
But also cool, right?
I agree. Yeah, I think that certainly could have been tightened a little bit, but overall, I think they did overall like quite a good job. I think Chris Pine held down the role.
Jonathan is now that's now a canonical name, and it's the most common name now canonically in all of my D&D campaigns. Jonathan is just is just everybody's Jonathan. Like when you go to places and you like those name tags, there's no Bort, but there's like 15 rows of Jonathan. Like
I love that. I love that. No, actually, I'm playing D&D right now,
yeah, the D&D
and
talk.
I have we're doing a homebrew campaign, and my very first, he didn't warn us, but the very first time we played, we were told that we were not just our fantasy characters, but we were office workers playing our fantasy characters. And without even thinking about it, I
Ooh,
named my office
okay.
worker Chris Pine. And so,
I love
um,
it. I love that.
let me think here. So I'm actually opening up my Steam library here
Wait,
because
yeah, what are you playing? What okay, all right, Jonah, your character. Give us race, class, and what's it? Race, class, and alignment?
um,
And level. Race, class, level, and alignment.
well, we're only level 3.
Okay.
Um, my character's name she's a half elf bard
Ooh,
named
okay.
Array. She's very beautiful, except that half of her face is kind of melting a little bit, and she's
Oh,
got these
oh.
horrible deformities kind of all over kind of half her body.
Oh
And
no.
she comes from a village where everybody's suffering from this, so she's on
Oh,
a
it's
quest.
normal where she's from. She's like I don't understand. Everyone from my village looks like the
Yes. So she's
yeah, yeah.
looking. She's trying to find she's trying to find a cure. She's
Amazing.
great. I love her. I love playing her.
Oh man.
Let me think here. So I'm looking through. I mean, listen, I would love to see Half-Life done.
Oh
I think
yes, you know what?
Half-Life.
That's the answer. I think a Half-Life, like as well done as the Fallout show. I would be very into that. Prime,
Totally
if
into
you're
that.
listening, and I know you're always listening with my phone and everything. Everything's always listening. Then yeah, you should like please do that. Okay. D&D wise, before we get off the D&D thing and back to the questions, just open invitation. I'm a forever DM. We actually just had to put Carbon is one of the players in one of my games. We just had to put one of the campaigns on hiatus. So I'm thinking I'm gonna do a short. If you find yourself having some time in the late evenings, because we play like late, like 9:30 into like till like midnight or so. I only do like 3 hour sessions. Then open invitation for you to join us.
All right.
And then okay, so let's get back to the questions real quick. Carbon, next question.
Yeah, one more real short one. And
Okay.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, so forgive me. Does Jallarhorn's dad have a big beard?
Gallahorn. Yeah. Yes.
Gallagher.
Yes, he does. He has. I think one eye and a big beard. Yes, that's it.
Oh,
He's one of those big fellas.
oh,
Yeah.
one eye and a big beard. Okay, I see the Norse references and stuff. That's
Good
great.
question.
I love it. Oh, did you play the new God of War, like the most recent one?
No. No.
Oh, you gotta
no.
play
I've
that.
not let myself play very many games.
Okay, yeah, no,
Last
fair.
year,
Don't play that. Don't play it, Jonah. You got to get back to work. Okay,
last
so
year
that's all the
I
that's all the
played.
questions we have from chat.
I played Baldur's Gate 3, and let's think. What else did I play last year?
Helldivers is great.
I want to play Helldivers. Actually, I've never owned a gaming system.
Really? Well, I
Believe
mean,
it or
like, I'm
not.
just playing it on PC, right? I'm just playing it on PC, and it's
Oh
man,
yeah, I
Helldivers
didn't
is
realize
so
they.
good.
I didn't realize they had it there. And then
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
actually
yeah, they got it on
crossplay
Steam.
as well.
It is crossplay, yeah. So if you buy it, you can play with
Oh.
other people. Thank God we're doing crossplay now. Please, okay, Monster. I'm like co-opting the interview to say Monster Hunter Wilds. If you don't do crossplay, they've already confirmed they did, right? Have they? I think they
I
confirmed that.
don't know.
I haven't been looking into it, but if there's not, I'm gonna be so mad. Crossplay should be standard now, especially with the way
I
Xbox
played
is doing.
Homeworld Deserts of Karak. I know I played that as well last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I played Elden Ring. I even made a YouTube video about Elden Ring.
Oh yeah, I
This
haven't
year,
played Elden Ring.
oh, it's so good.
I know,
It's
I
so
know. I'm
good.
resisting. It's one of the okay. I'm one of those people when everyone likes it, I'm like, well, then maybe I won't like it. like I don't know. I'm just that guy. But I'm a bit. Also, I think it's how I justify being poor and not being able to pick it up until like they have it on sale like 3 years later. Also, Bethesda, you're killing me with the sales. You gotta help out a poor man who lives in Canada. Games are $90 when they're new. I am so poor. You know how much chicken I could buy for that? Okay. Okay. So, Carbon, do you have any last questions to ask Jonah before we let him get back to his work? He has a comic to do.
This man has a lot of work to do. Why don't we let him go?
Okay, you're good. All right, perfect.
We're good on
Jonah,
this side.
thank you so much for
My
joining us.
pleasure.
Like, this is a wonderful way for us to kick off the podcast and to like reconnect with you. Always feel free, like open lines of communication from me. Anytime you want to hit me up, please do, man. I love talking to you.
Thanks,
I
man.
would definitely want to have you back on the show once the comic is actually done and out the door.
Let's do
I
it.
would love to talk to you about that.
Let's do it. Absolutely. I would love
Awesome.
that. Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so
thank you so much for having me on. This has been great.
yeah, this is fantastic. This is like I said, this is my new thing. This is what I'm doing now, and I'm having a blast doing this already. It's gonna be a wild ride, guys. Lots more awesome that are gonna be interviewing coming up soon and stuff. But again, thank you so much, Jonah. And okay, so you're working on the thing again, just for the cap on the end of the thing. The thing you're working on, where they can find it, and I just any last comments before we head off.
Yeah. So the last thing I'm working on right now is Quiet Level 1. Look up more about it on my website or just on the Kickstarter website. Just Google Quiet Level 1 Kickstarter. Please back it at any level, although I do recommend the hardcover level because the hardcover level features an exclusive hardcover version that won't be available afterwards. We might do it in hardcover later, but it won't be like this. And it's got just nice, it's got a slip case. It's very nice. You can find me on JonahLobe.com. You can find me on that Kickstarter. You can also find me on Instagram as well under I am Jonah Lobe. And that's all I've got. And so I'm just going to be basically, and I also have a fantasy world building newsletter. The Tree of Worlds, you can find it on Substack. And so if you just look for Jonah Lobe Substack or Jonah Lobe Tree of Worlds, it'll take you right there. And it's basically, you can just sign up there. And whenever I write little articles about world building, whether it's character development or panel creation or lore or whatever, I try to, I used to do video games and I did concept art. Now then I did illustration and now I'm doing comic book development. I tried to do, I feel very lucky to do what I do. And so I try to pay it forward in educating others and showing others the journey I've taken. So I do that both in my YouTube channel. If you haven't seen my YouTube channel and checked out my Skyrim documentary or my Fallout creature design documentary, you can learn a lot more about my work on Fallout and the Deathclaw there. But also there's this newsletter. And so if you yourself are a world builder and a fantasy lover, sign up because you will like what you read.
Amazing. This again, I can't thank you enough, Jonah. It's been so much fun, and I can't wait to do this again too. And I can't wait to watch the development happen as you like finish off the comic. Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm
All right,
pumped. Thank
we're
you
gonna
so much.
get. Oh yeah, man. Anytime at all. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for joining in who joined live and stuff. I've got more interviews lined up over the upcoming weeks. Pretty much one a week. Everybody's been they're like we don't want to pressure Molten, so it's like been one a week for the next little while. So there'll be more interviews coming in. We'll be recording some stuff on the show, like on the stream and stuff that will be included in the podcast as well, like some discussions, even potentially some debates and stuff. We didn't get to the AI stuff, which is a shame, but we had such a great interview already. We'll book you in for one of these AI debates. You can pick what side you want to be on. I know what side he's gonna be on. Okay,
Yes.
Guys, but that's it for now. Thanks again for joining in for Jonah, and we will see you again soon.
Take care.